Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class. We will have a short class today, about 1 hour or less. But I wanted to continue the momentum of having the classes so that there is not a long break. Yes, I said there will be a 2-week gap, but the schedule changed. We were going to go to Badrinath yesterday, but now we are going today. So there is some change of schedule. There was 1 hour available. So I thought we'll do a class. For those in Bhakti Shastri, they can watch the recording if they didn't plan. And attendance will not be counted for today. So all those caveats are there. But still, I wanted to make some progress. It's good to keep the momentum. So in that spirit, I'm just doing the class. So let us start with the prayers. Yeah. I will just recite the prayers. You all have your Bhagavad Gitas. So you all can see. I'm not going to share the screen just to save time. And please recite the Mangalacharan very carefully with attention, because there is definitely full power in the Mangalacharan. And the more nicely you do Mangalacharan, the more Bhagavad Gita becomes accessible to us. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutah Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhu Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। All right. So we are entering some of the most important Gita of the second chapter. Second chapter is contents of the Gita summarized. And we covered Atma Jnana as a big section, the science of the soul. And then we also covered a completely alternate explanation based on material considerations. Yes, Krishna Murari Prabhu, you have raised your hand. Okay, now it's gone. Probably it was by mistake.
So sorry, Prabhuji, so sorry.
No problem.
So sorry.
Yeah. And then Lord Krishna begins the description from what is known as the Buddhi Yoga perspective, or that is the first time in 2.39 where he uses the word yoga. So that is the section we are in. And Lord Krishna first describes the characteristics of this process of yoga. And one of the characteristics, first, he glorifies this process, that this process is supremely beneficial, even if one invests a little bit in this process. That's the 2.40 verse, Neha Bhikrama Nasho Asti Pratyavayo Na Vidyate. Swalpasya, swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat, that it can save you from, this process is so powerful that even a little progress is supremely beneficial for all of us, and it can save us in the greatest kind of dangers, and the biggest danger is death. So progress on this path continues to the next life. Anything material does not continue into the next life. This process carries over into the next life. But what is required is focus. That is 2.41. So, vyavasāyātmikā buddhi, that is the requirement that one has to have focused engagement in this process. So that is a very important point, that many people try to approach Bhagavad Gita as one of the ways of making spiritual progress. The teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, even though they allow for multiple paths, there are still so many other ways people may be aware, or people may think are there for making spiritual progress. But Lord Krishna is saying that following Bhagavad Gita singularly and abandoning and giving up all other processes, he will say this towards the end as well, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. But following Bhagavad Gita singularly is very important. And within Bhagavad Gita also, there are multiple processes described, and Lord Krishna will focus on Bhakti Yoga as the singular process. And that too, Bhakti to Krishna as the, or when we say Krishna, it means Bhakti to any of the forms of Lord Krishna, whether it is Ram, Narsingha, etc., and so on, is very, very important. So many people I have seen in my experience over last, whatever, 10, 15, 20 years, they don't, they treat it as one of the processes, and then, spiritual life makes some progress, but it will not make as potent and as quick progress as one desires. So exclusive focus is very important, and Lord Krishna will emphasize on this throughout the Bhagavad Gita. So do not underestimate that point. And then Lord Krishna talked about the Vedas, that Vedas, this is exactly the point he is mentioning, that there are so many things described in the Vedas. If you get lost in that whole process, then the progress will be very gradual, very slow. So this is a very important point to keep in mind. Okay, so now we come to, let me share my screen and we will. Are you able to see the screen? Okay. Okay, great. So, yeah, I'm using this cellular connection. So, but with the help of Krishna Murari Prabhu yesterday and his assistant, I was able to get a very good cellular connection. So thanks to all the devotees that made it happen. So I hope the connection is good and the audio and the screen sharing is good. If it drops or something, if somebody could send a message to me privately, that would be appreciated on WhatsApp. Okay. So now we go into the discussion of Nishkama Karma Yoga. Now Lord Krishna actually begins the process of, or the description of what is this yoga. So far he was describing the characteristics, the eligibility or the requirement of focus in 2.41, and the a word of caution about the Vedas from 2.42 to 46. Now comes this very famous verse 2.47, which is the essence of Nishkama Karma Yoga, 47 and 48. So, Nishkama Karma Yoga, first of all, so this process is being described from 2.47 to 53 in these 7 verses, but mainly in 2 verses, 47 and 48 itself. And it is the prelude to Bhakti Yoga, where Lord Krishna will take us towards. So first we must understand Nishkama Karma Yoga, and there is a reason Lord Krishna is not introducing Bhakti Yoga in the very beginning, because many people are not going to be, the Bhakti is something that is not very acceptable to many people. And there are reasons for it. I don't want to get into the details of that, but short answer is that Bhakti means devotion or submission. There is an aspect of surrender. There is an aspect of submission that is hard for many people. And people have surrender or submission to this notion of surrender and submission to someone else. Either it could be some other deity, some other person, some other process, some other concept. So it's very hard to say, okay, you must do bhakti to Krishna. So Lord Krishna is describing Nishkama Karma Yoga first, which in itself is a complete process. Okay, it's a wholesome and valid, complete process. But the best way, in a way to think about it, the best way to perform Nishkama Karma Yoga is through Bhakti Yoga. So in that sense, Nishkama Karma Yoga naturally leads to Bhakti Yoga. In that sense, it is a prelude to Bhakti Yoga. But Bhakti is not being introduced by Lord Krishna yet. That will come later. It will come in bits and pieces. In chapter 2, it will come in chapter 3 as well, chapter 4 as well, 5, 6. There are verses in all these chapters which directly refer to Bhakti. But it will come in full force in a very direct way starting from chapter 7. Okay. So, however, Srila Prabhupada, in his purports and translations, is introducing Bhakti right away. So you will see the translation of, at many places, of Buddhi Yoga, for example, is the word that is used. Srila Prabhupada will translate it as devotional service, which means Bhakti, because he is trying to accelerate our understanding from the future chapters into the second chapter itself. So that is the reason you will see that kind of a translation. So Bhakti Yoga is the more practical or the intelligent. Buddhi Yoga means the intelligent path, or what I have used the word is a smart path for making spiritual progress. And Bhakti is the easiest and the best. So why would anybody perform any other process other than Bhakti? So that is the interpretation of Buddhi Yoga. And it directly points to Bhakti. But Lord Krishna is not bringing it out right now. So Lord Krishna starts with the description of Nishkama Karma Yoga. So now let us see what is Nishkama Karma Yoga. 2.47, very, very famous verse. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhu ma te sango stva karma akarmani. So let us unpack each line very carefully. Karmani eva adhikaraste. So you have the adhikar, you have the right to perform your duty. Ma means no or not. Phaleshu kadachana, but never to the phala or the result. So you do not have, so basically what is being said is that, let's take the first line, do your duty. Even though it is saying you have the right to do your duty, there is a deeper aspect to that. I'm going to skip that for now. But the point is, you must always do your duty. Karmanyeva adhikaraste. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Kadachana means ever. Ma phaleshu, not to the phala. So you don't have adhikar, which means you do not have a right to the results, which means that don't treat the results as your own. You have a right to something which you own, isn't it? You like, I have the right to enter my own house. It's my house. Who can stop me from entering my house? So it's because it's mine. So I have the right to use it. So in the same way, one does not have the right to the results because the results are not theirs. Why? Because you are not the only producer of results. We will come to that. So that is the first two lines. Do your duty. Yes, definitely you must do your duty, but do not be attached to the results. That is 2.47a and b. So wherever I use these letters A, B, C, D, it means it's referring to the line of the verse, the first line or the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Typically, all verses have 4 quarters. So I use it as A, B, C, D. So do your duty. Karmani eva adhikaraste. Also, that Lord Krishna is saying, not just because we are saying you do not have a right to the results or don't be attached to the results, you can do a half-baked job. You can do, like if I tell you, go do your job, but you will not get salary. Will you do it with, most people will not do their jobs with commitment, with full interest. But Lord Krishna is saying that's not the right attitude. In the last line, he is saying, Ma te sango astva akarmani. Do not be um, don't be detached from or don't be attached to a karma, which means not doing your duty. So it's a double negative, which means be attached to doing your duty. Don't be attached to the result. So that I have translated, or I have the point being conveyed is, do your duty with commitment. Even though you should not consider the results to be yours. Let that not deter you, or let that not um, discourage you from doing the duty itself. Be fully attached to doing the duty. There is this famous saying, right, by John F. Kennedy, ask not what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for the country. Kind of the same spirit thing. Don't ask in return, what will I get? And when you do something, do it with full commitment, with full enthusiasm, with full interest, and so on. So these are the various aspects of this works. Karmani eva adhikaraste. You have the full right to do your duty, which means you must do your duty. Do not be attached to the result. Ma phaleshu kadachan. Never be attached to the result. And the third line is Ma karma phala heturbhur. Never do your duty for the hetu of the phala, which means for the fruit. So never do the duty for the sake of the fruit. And because the fruit is not produced, you are not entitled to the fruit. You are not the producer of the fruit. So let's talk about this a little bit. We think we are the producers of all the results of the activities we do. That's not true. Let's take a simple example of a farmer. He may sow the seeds. He may first till the land, sow the seeds, do everything properly. But if there is no rain on time, or if some other things don't happen properly, if there's no sunshine or whatever else, if the ground is not having, the soil is not having fertility or the right minerals, then the crop will not come out. It may not come out at all. Or even if it comes out, it may not be of a good quality. So that's a very simple example. In so many cases in our job also, there are so many things. If your team members don't cooperate, the results don't happen. You may do everything correctly, and there are so many other things that go wrong. Even though one has put in the full effort, sometimes things just don't happen. There are some extreme examples. For example, there was this pole vaulter called Sergey Bubka in the 80s. He was considered the sort of a, the world's sort of the greatest athlete. And in the previous Olympics, he won like gold medal and so on. I think in the 1988 Olympics, he didn't even qualify for the finals. That one day, something happened and he just couldn't clear it's not like he was injured or anything. Something happened and he just couldn't clear the basic level of basic height in the pole vault. So things happen. So one must not consider that I am the only doer. Yes, you are the doer, you are part of the result, but all of the result is not attributed to you. Just like in the case of a farmer, even if there is full rain, full sunshine, if he didn't till the land properly or sow the seeds, still the crop will not come. So he has a role. He is part of the cause, but he is not the full cause. And Lord Krishna is saying that one must consider oneself completely detached from the results. Even though he is part of the cause, he should not consider I have a right or I have a ownership of part of the result either. Even he should not give up his share of the result as well. The other reason for that is going to come up, is because this creates the consciousness for spiritual progress. That is the essence of the next verse as to why one should not have any attachment to the results. Another point to note here is that one should give up the attachment to the results. If the results are there, of course, he has done the work for his own maintenance or for his own use. He can use the results, but one should not be attached to the results. One should not do the duty. The hetuh word is very important in the third line, that in order to, hetuh means in order to. So with an expectation of the result. Sometimes results happen without even doing the work. Many times for devotees, especially of Lord Krishna, they will see in their life that many times things just work out without even they putting in a lot of effort, because Lord Krishna is just clearing the way for them, removing obstacles so that they can focus on bhakti. So many devotees have very, very good realizations or good incidents in their life where they see things happen even without putting the effort. So sometimes that also happens. And in that case, it is easier to see that one should not think the result was caused by them. It is only caused by the blessings of the Lord. But that is for a devotee. Most people, materialistic people, uh, even if the results happen without their doing, they claim all the credit. So what we should do is exact opposite. We should not claim credit for the results that even if we caused, and definitely not for the results that happened accidentally or with very little effort or by some good luck or our past karma. Okay. So that is the 2.47. If you have any questions, you can feel free to raise your hand, but we'll keep going. The next verse goes and explains something deeper, that the reason why we must not expect the results or we should not be attached to the results is because it creates a clearing for spiritual consciousness to arise. So more on this will be discussed in the next few chapters. I'm showing this 3, 4, 5 because chapter 2 is the summary of the Bhagavad Gita. So I'm showing certain verses and showing how it connects to future verses. So 2.48, Lord Krishna is giving the definition of yoga, because the last line says, Samatvam yoga uchyate, that this is called yoga. So what is being said here? So the verse is, Yoga stha kuru karmani, sangam tyaktva dhananjaya, Siddhi asiddhi samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So, yogastha kuru karmani, that perform your duty with a yoga stha mentality. Kuru karmani, do your actions, do the activity, but with yoga stha, which means that keeping your consciousness focused on yoga, that what am I trying to achieve by doing this action is actually, remember we discussed yoga means connecting with the Supreme. So the intent is spiritual progress. So when one keeps the consciousness that I want to make spiritual progress. Otherwise, if I tell, hey, do your duty, but don't be attached to the result, you will say, why? Why should I do the duty? Some return has to be there. Some expectation has to be there. Now, this final expectation, by the way, is gone in bhakti. That is the difference between Nishkama Karma Yoga and bhakti. I'll come to that later. Here, there is still an expectation. And what is the expectation? Of spiritual progress. Ultimately, we will see in the next couple of verses of moksha, that I will get liberation. I will be able to get rid. I will be able to be free from this cycle of suffering, birth and death, etc. So that expectation is there, but that is a spiritual expectation. That's not a material expectation. That is not a material result. So being attached to a spiritual result is totally fine. Is totally fine. In bhakti, even that is considered to be unacceptable. But we will come to that part later. We discussed that in great length in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as to how the expectation of moksha is also not beneficial for progress in bhakti. In bhakti, one should give up even the spiritual attachment, which is attachment to moksha. But at the level of Bhagavad Gita, we are not at such a deep level of bhakti. So Lord Krishna is saying, yes, attachment to moksha is a good kind of an attachment. So that is what should propel one to perform Nishkama Karma Yoga, to give up the attachment to material results, to clear the space for attachment to a spiritual result, which is moksha, which is coming up. So first line is yogastha kuru karmani. And then yogastha is being described in the next few lines. Sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Dhananjaya is Arjuna. Abandoning all attachment. Sangam tyaktva. Tyaktva means abandon or give up. And sanga means attachment to results. So abandoning all attachment to results, one should perform one's duty. And attachment to what? To siddhi or asiddhi, which means success or failure. Whenever you do and attach any action, it can result in success or failure. Now, nobody's attached to failure, but the point is yogastha, not being disturbed, being equipoised. So success, one will be very happy, very elated. But if there is failure, causes a lot of disturbance, disappointment, emotional trauma, whatever it is, depending on the how much you were attached to the result. So without any attachment or being disturbed by success or failure, bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So samo bhutva, by not being disturbed by any of, disturbed or too elated, too happy, neither too sad on the results. Samatvam yoga uchyate. And samatvam, staying equipoised or undisturbed always in this, staying in this consciousness always is called yoga. Okay. Now, the question is, where is yoga in this whole process? It is called yoga, right? So where is yoga? How, okay, what is being said is stay undisturbed with all your activities or the results that you get from your activities. Activities will produce some results. Okay. Nishkama Karma Yoga does not mean doing activities which produce no results. That is another misconception. If you do an activity, it will produce a result. So no result, or doing an activity in such a way that it produces no result, is a wrong understanding. Activity or action will produce result. The point is doing activity or actions without the expectation or attachment of a result. All right. And where is the connection to Supreme in this? Because doing it with such consciousness of being undisturbed or attached to material outcomes, it creates the clearing for spiritual progress. One is able to, therefore, connect quickly, make progress to connect with the Supreme Lord. So that is the point being mentioned. So that is Nishkama Karma Yoga. All right. Okay. So next point is there are three types of karma. So now we are deep into this discussion of karma or actions. And there are three types of karma. So I have shown here on the slide 1, 2, and 3. So the way to understand it is there is karma, and it is of two types, sakama and nishkama. All right. So sakama means that one which produces results. Okay. And or I take it back. All karma produces results. Sakama karma means action that you do where you expect some kind of result. You do it for the sake of results in order to enjoy the results. That is sakama karma. Action done to enjoy the result with the expectation of result. Nishkama karma is action done with no attachment to the result. It is just action done as a matter of duty to make spiritual progress. The intent is, I want to make spiritual progress. And action has to be done. No action is not an option. Even blinking your eyes, breathing is an action. And for bodily maintenance, some action is needed. No action is not an option. So action is to be done, but when it is done without expectation of any results or attachment to results, it is nishkama karma. Sakama means action that you are doing with expectation of results. And that is divided into two further categories, punya karma and papa karma. Okay, punya karma means legal actions, you can say, dharmic actions that are sanctioned by authorities, whether it is according to the laws of the country or the laws of humanity or the laws of the Vedas, whatever you have faith in, and they are all aligned, okay, more or less. So actions, we can say punya karma as pious actions, whether you call it dharmic, Vedic, or legal. In general, we will put a category called pious actions. Such actions, as you may all understand, have short-term hardship. Isn't it? Paying your taxes, 40%, 30% taxes is not easy. You worked so hard to earn the money, $100, and now $35 you have to give back to the government. And you're only left with 65. But that's the dharmic way of living. And it leads to long-term happiness. So short-term hardship, long-term happiness. Papa karma is opposite. It is short-term happiness, long-term suffering. So both of these are done for some kind of happiness. An intelligent person will do punya karma because he is interested in long-term happiness. A foolish person will do papa karma because he is interested in short-term happiness and he cannot see the long-term suffering. Or even if he sees long-term suffering, he somehow thinks he can avoid it. So for whatever reason, he does papa karma. But Nishkama Karma is the ultimate long-term happiness. And that is why it is called liberating. The ultimate long-term happiness is to get out of this material world, to exit this cycle of birth and death. So that is why the other two, Punya Karma and Papa Karma, are called binding. Binding because they keep you bound in this cycle of birth and death. Even if you do Papa Karma, is very clear. It will keep you bound because you have to suffer for your evil or your sinful actions. Punya karma is also binding because you did the actions in order to enjoy the results. The results will come. Most likely the results will come. They may not come, like we said, because there are other things that are governing whether the results will occur or not. Like I said, the rain and the sunshine and so on. But most likely the results come and you will have to enjoy them. So you will have to be there to enjoy them. And the cycle of birth and death continues. So Punya Karma and Papa Karma are both binding. Nishkama Karma is the only one which is non-binding, in other words, liberating. Okay, so these are the three categories of, or the three broad classifications of karma. Punya karma, papa karma, which are combined to call sakama karma, and nishkama karma. Now, in the next verse, 2.49, Lord Krishna is saying, stay away, durena hi avaram karma. So, avaram means sinful actions. Stay away from sinful actions. Definitely. And in the last line, he will say that also stay away from pious actions. Phala hetavaha, kripana, he will call. That he will say that, first of all, some long-term thinking is needed to do pious actions because it needs initial hardship. All pious actions are initial hardship. A very common form of pious action is giving charity. Now, for those who are miserly or very greedy, giving charity is hard. Why would anybody just give away hard-earned money? So in that sense, it requires some initial hardship. So, but it results in long-term happiness because that comes back to you as the law of karma. But what Lord Krishna is going to say is that one should think very, very long-term. So he's also saying stay away from pious actions because ultimately it is binding. Else he's saying you are a kripana, just like I mentioned, you are a miser. You are trying to keep attached, you're trying to stay attached to something which is not in your long-term benefit. Another way is calling yourself or calling such a person a short-term thinker. Just like a sinner, there is short-term happiness involved. One gets short-term benefits by committing a sinful action. Otherwise, why would one commit a sinful action? Either it is by killing someone or whatever, it gives some initial pleasure, maybe, if not any actual monetary benefit. Maybe it is just for the sake of pleasure. Some people just find happiness. There was this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is this example of a Mrigari hunter. This hunter used to get pleasure by killing animals and seeing animals die. No other reason. So there is some short-term pleasure in sinful actions, and it leads to long-term suffering. But pious actions, similarly, also are short-term because they are non-liberating. They keep one bound to the cycle, to this material cycle. And that is why Lord Krishna calls such a person as Kripana. Kripana phala hetavaha, who does actions hetu in order to enjoy the fruits. Phala hetavaha, for the phala. So that is what is being said here. And buddhau sharanam anvichha. The smart thing or the best thing to do is smart actions. Intelligent, go for the spiritual solution. And here, buddhau sharanam, taking the shelter or going for the intelligent solution. What is intelligent about it is because it leads to the best or the ultimate long-term solution. What is that ultimate long-term solution? That will be discussed in the next 2 verses. And directly Lord Krishna will say that that long-term solution is, or why that is the best solution, and it is called the long-term, because it leads to permanent happiness, and that is moksha. Moksha is complete liberation or getting out of this cycle of birth and death, going to the spiritual world where there is no suffering, no death, no any kind of suffering. So that is the spiritual result, and that will be discussed in the, so more on this will be there in chapter 5, where Lord Krishna repeatedly talks about nirvana. The concept of Brahma nirvana will be talked in the 5th chapter. So that's a link to that. But that is the spiritual result that one obtains by doing Nishkama Karma Yoga. Yes, there's a question, Arnab. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I had a quick question. So Nishkam Karma Yoga is this example of say donating money to ISKCON temple when we go for the lunch, the free lunch on Sundays? Is that considered as a Nishkam karma, or if I have in my mind that, oh, I am doing something good, that means I'm attached now with karma, and therefore I will face the consequence of that?
Yeah, so there are
That's the
3
question.
things involved here, not just
Hmm.
2. Okay. So your physical action, as we can say, as a fly on the wall would observe. Okay. Just the physical action is you are donating the money for, let us say, feeding the devotees or whatever, donating money to the temple. That's the physical action, right? The consciousness behind the hetuh, behind it, is all that matters. And there could be 3 possible hetus, 3 possible in order tos, or 3 possible motivations for doing that action, which govern as to what kind of karma it will be categorized as. Are you following? You can unmute yourself and tell me yes,
Yeah.
no.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
following? The first one is, it could be sakama, means I am donating money to the temple as an act of charity, and I will reap the benefits. I will get a lot of benefits in the future, in this
Hmm.
life or next life. If that is the consciousness, you are doing that action as the fly would view from the wall, you donated money, then it falls under the category of punya karma. It is
Hmm.
sakama punya karma. If you did it with the um, consciousness or with the intention that so many nice things have happened in my life, it's my duty, it's just my duty to give back. And to give back to, let us say, if you think that so many things are happening in my life, either God caused it or whoever caused it, I must give back something. I have got something, I really didn't deserve it. First of all, one may think, hey, I was not born with disabilities. Many people are born with disabilities. What you didn't, nobody has a say, nobody chooses, I want to be born with no disabilities or with disabilities. And then so many good things happen. Somebody is born in a rich family, poor family, Rich family has more resources. You can go to a college, you can get good education, you can have a good life. Of course, some rich people born in good families also don't make use of the resources, but still, so out of gratitude or a sense of duty, you donate money to the temple. Say, I don't want any results. I'm just donating. When you say I don't want any results, many people confuse it with I don't want results in this life. But internally, they are thinking next life or somebody else, my family, my children, or my next 10 generations will reap the benefits. That again goes back to the first category of sakama. So if you just give with all, zero, then that becomes Nishkama Karma Yoga. But
Thank you.
that is not the reason why we ask people to donate money to the temple. We ask people to donate money with the third consciousness, which is bhakti. And what it means is that when one is aware that Krishna has been so kind, now you directly bring in God. And the devotees of Krishna are doing so much for the sake of spreading the message of Lord Krishna to others. Let me contribute in that process. Let me show my gratitude directly to Krishna and help in spreading this message of Krishna to more and more people, like I have been, somebody did it to me. So there is a in order to here. There is not it's not no in order to, but the in order to is for the pleasure of Krishna, not for anybody material, neither for you in this life, for your family members, friends, nobody, not for their happiness in this life or the next, but for Krishna's happiness. Krishna will say, Lord will say in the future chapters that I become very happy when somebody takes my message and spreads it to others. So if you are contributing with that in mind, that these devotees of Krishna are working so hard, let me also be a part of that team and contribute money, time, effort, whatever. Money is not the only way. If you cannot contribute your time and effort, which is more important for most people, at least contribute something, contribute your money. If you cannot contribute your money, just contribute your sweet words. Just say thank you. That also is an act of bhakti. So when we say contribute to the temple, we only, at least that should be the intention. Now, externally, somebody may say, yes, I am a bhakta, I'm doing bhakti. Internally, they may be still doing it for the first reason. That's why purity matters. But that is the principle, that when one is doing this act of either donating to the temple or whatever, one should have very clear understanding why I am doing it, because that is all that matters. Okay, so
Thank you.
that's the answer
Yeah.
to your question. Okay, so coming back to Nishkama Karma Yoga, there is still a in order to here. In Bhakti also there is an in order to, but there is an in order to or a attachment to result in all the cases. What is being said is that is not okay is attachment to material results. In Nishkama Karma Yoga, there is attachment to spiritual result for me. That is what is being discussed in this slide here. Spiritual result or attachment to spiritual result for me. Bhakti Yoga means attachment to spiritual result for the happiness of Krishna, not me. That is the difference, but that we will come to later. So let us see what is the result of Nishkama Karma Yoga. First of all, such actions, which means done as Nishkama Karma Yoga, are good for me because it nullifies pious and sinful reactions. That is what is being said. A man engaged in devotional service, I'm reading the translation of verse number 50, rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. So whatever are the past reactions that one has accumulated, are nullified. Wouldn't you like that for yourself? The answer would be yes. So therefore, Lord Krishna is saying, do this kind of action, Nishkama Karma. And then what will happen? Okay, fine. Once the pious and sinful reactions have been nullified, then in the 2.51, Lord Krishna is saying, by thus engaging in devotional service. Now, again, Buddhi Yoga, Srila Prabhupada is translating it as devotional service, but the Sanskrit is karmajam buddhi yukta hi. So we will still continue to say that this is Nishkama Karma Yoga, or by such action, great sages or devotees free themselves from the result of work in the material world. That is the same point as before, but here is the next point. Janma bandha vinirmuktaha. That is the main point. Janma bandha vinirmukta. One becomes free from the cycle of taking repeated births. Janma bandha. Vinirmukta. One gets mukti from this cycle of taking birth. Padam gachanti anamayam. Anamayam means completely spiritual. It has no tinge of any suffering. Anamayam, completely free of suffering. And that is the spiritual. Gachanti, padam gachanti. That padam, the padam means destination. Gachanti, you go to that highest spiritual destination, which is the spiritual world. So there are two outcomes: freedom from birth and death, and going to eternal destination or the spiritual world. Both of them, basically the essence is getting moksha. The word moksha is not used, but that is exactly what it is. Being free from the cycle of birth and death and going to the spiritual destination. So that is the result of doing Nishkama Karma Yoga. Now, Bhakti Yoga also leads to the same result, but it is much easier to perform. And not only it leads to this result, it leads to a much higher result. We will discuss that in the future chapters. And Manishinaha, that it is evidenced by past sages. So it's not something that is theoretical. Many past practitioners of this process have attained this result. Okay. Now Lord Krishna comes back to the discussion of the Vedic knowledge. So Lord Krishna completes this section by saying that Vedic knowledge, Shruti, he says here in the second half of this verse 52, Tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. So Shruti is all the Vedas, and what is being the translation is everything that has been heard or is to be heard. So that is the Shruti. So all the Vedas, the another name for Vedas is Shruti. So Vedic knowledge is very, very vast. It includes all these things that Arjuna was talking about in chapter 1. Compassion, kindness, piety, morality, all these things are there. However, the higher teachings of the Vedas are about attaining moksha. So that again focus on that word kripana, or short-sightedness. A miser person is short-sighted. Don't we say, hey, why are you being miserly? Give freely, give charity, don't be miserly, because it is short-sighted. So kripana and short-sightedness kind of are synonymous. So Lord Krishna is saying, don't be short-sighted. Because there are a lot of processes in the Vedas which tell you to make gradual progress. Somebody may not be attracted to spiritual progress immediately. For such people, Vedas say, okay, at least make gradual progress by being kind, compassionate, doing pious actions. But one who is serious for making quick progress, accelerated spiritual progress, for him or her, Lord Krishna is saying that you should take to the spiritual path. Directly aim for moksha, not just for pious actions or a good next life, get out of this cycle of birth and death, and attain permanent happiness. So there are these higher teachings in the Vedas about attaining moksha, and those sections of the Vedas are called the Upanishads. So they talk about moksha. So that is what Lord Krishna is saying, that don't get entangled with all these other teachings of the Vedas, which keep you in the material world. Even though they will take you to a better and better level in the material world, but they still keep you in the material world. Lord Krishna, Bhagavad Gita is all about short-circuiting or skipping over all those portions and directly aiming for moksha. And very quickly in the future chapters, Lord Krishna will even skip this portion of moksha and go directly to bhakti, which we will cover later. So therefore, Lord Krishna is asking Arjuna to focus on the higher aspects of the Vedas. And like I just said, this moksha is not the highest concept of Bhagavad Gita. The highest concept is bhakti, which has not been disclosed by Lord Krishna yet. Okay. So this completes. So the 52nd and 53rd translations I will read. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. So Lord Krishna is saying basically that there is a lot of stuff in the Vedas. You should fast forward and focus on those aspects which yield a spiritual result, not just a better material result. Okay, so that is the first verse. And the next verse is, when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So Lord Krishna is directly saying that skip over these portions of the Vedas that talk about material progress, directly go towards spiritual progress. So we will stop here for today. I said it's a shorter class, and we will continue next week, hopefully. Please, since while I am on travel for the next few weeks, the schedule will be a little bit up and down and unpredictable. So please cooperate with me. I will try to keep the cadence of the classes going on a weekly basis. It's good to keep making progress, even though it is smaller steps, but it is continuous and it is consistent. So I will try for that, and I request your help in attending. For those doing Bhakti Shastri, keep making progress on the homework. And yeah, any questions? Okay, if no questions, then we will stop here. Yes, Mamta, did you have a question? No.
Yeah, I had one
Okay.
question in regards to the vyavasāyātmikā buddhir. Is that in reference to being, single-minded focus in reference to being pious, or also we can use that in reference to doing any activities like day-to-day activities?
Yeah, it has reference to all those things. So the verse says, vyavasāyātmikā buddhi ekeha kurunandana bahushākhād yenantascha buddhayo avyavasāyinam. That to attain any result out of any vyavasaya means any business is the sort of the word business, but any activity, any engagement, any kind of career or any path, single-minded focus is very, very important. And like I said, that's true for anything, even if you're doing your job, even if you're studying for a student or for an entrepreneur or for a businessman or for a scientist or a spiritual practitioner. Single-minded focus focus is very, very important. But here, obviously, it means that towards spiritual progress. That's the Bhagavad Gita is all about spiritual progress, but that verse definitely applies even to material pursuits. But in that case, you are you could the same concept is told by so many other people. You pick up any good management book, you pick up any good book on how to be successful in life, they will also tell you the same thing. You don't need to read Bhagavad Gita to be materially successful. Bhagavad Gita is for spiritual success. So
Right.
everything in Bhagavad Gita will be interpreted with a spiritual goal in mind.
Got it. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, but that verse specifically is talking about, in general, the importance of singular focus.
Okay.
You can apply wherever you want.
Yeah.
Yes, Ram Prabhu, Ram Pai.
Namaste. So a question here. One thing that I learned from today's class is if you have accumulated karma, whether good or bad, you will come back to life. I think that's
Yes.
the main thing. Right?
Yes.
If that is the case, does that mean all the great spiritual people of the past, like Arjuna, Bhima, or
No. Or even the sages, rishis, etc., they come back for a purpose. So it's not that the only reason why one comes back here is because of past karma. The converse is true. If there is baggage, past karma present, good or bad, one will come back. That is true. But the Lord can send his ambassadors, his servants to this world for a certain purpose, even though they have no karma, but they come to this world to execute the Lord's purpose.
okay, so
And
that's a possibility as well. You are not, without having any karma baggage, you can still be sent over to do some.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the very good example is given that of a jail. Okay, if you go inside a jail, what is the maximum population that you will see in a jail?
Whatever the jail can hold.
Huh?
Whatever the jail can hold, right? Whatever number of people that the jail
No,
can hold.
but what kind of people you will see there? The prisoners, right?
Right. Yeah.
But don't you see sometimes the jailer and the soldiers also? The policemen or whatever? They are fewer in quantity. The prisoners are the maximum. Okay. So is it the right thing to say that the only way to enter the jail is if you are a prisoner? No. You can also be sent for a particular purpose to reform the prisoners. Why is the jailer there? Again, in the ideal case, to reform the prisoners. The policeman, today he is getting the duty, let us say, to be a traffic police. Tomorrow he can be posted in a jail as a jail police, because the government says today you go and do this duty. So similarly, the Lord has so many pure devotees who are liberated. The Lord can say, today you go to this planet and take birth here, so that you can send this message to the people of that planet. You go to this planet and you send this message. So all our great acharyas come on this planet, and it's not that they had any karma. They were not, so to say, prisoners, but they were like the policemen or the government servants who came on the order of the government, and the supreme governor is Krishna.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions. I don't see any other questions, so we will end here. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. As I said, please keep an eye on the announcements, and we will try to continue to make progress. Thank you so much. Shri
Hare
Bhagavad
Krishna.
Gita ki
Hare-
jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Shivji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.